Jared Fry. Jared Fry.
Science rules.
Jared Fry.
Inertia is a property of matter.
Jared Fry.
Hey everybody, my friend's birthday's tomorrow and I know nothing would make him happier than if we made a good old-fashioned birthday cake.
Cake is a way that our culture celebrates birthdays, special occasions, and weddings. There are many bakeries that bake many sorts of goodies, like cake, especially for your friend's birthday.
Thanks, Grace. Now cake is quite obviously very cool, and so is science. Today, let's look at the science of cake making.
There are many types of cake, and it can be made up of many different ingredients. The most common ingredients found in cake are white sugar, butter, eggs, vanilla extract, flour, milk, and baking powder.
All these ingredients make up the cake and each have their own special role. Let's look at the roles of these ingredients.
Yum.
White sugar is an important ingredient in cake. The chemical formula is C12H22O11. White sugar undergoes a Maillard reaction, including amino acids and sugars, to undergo a series of complex reactions, depending on its temperature. It is also hygroscopic, meaning it can attract and hold on to water molecules very easily. This causes them to be spread out evenly throughout the batter, creating the perfect texture of being moist and fluffy on the inside and a bit crispy on the outside. The sugar also stabilizes the desserts, so it can maintain its shape and fluffiness for a couple of days.
Wow, sugar is pretty important, especially for me, since I've got a sweet tooth. Now, back to Jared Fry, the science guy, with his excellent explanation on a super important ingredient in making cake.
Eggs are a key ingredient for many baked goods, and cake is no exclusion. Eggs are what give your cake its nice, soft, and airy texture. Now, egg whites contain something called lecithin. Lecithin is a protein that protects the outside of the bubbles, preventing them from breaking down or collapsing at all, which will trap them inside of the cake mix, which gives them their nice, soft, airy texture when all those pockets of air are inside. Without eggs, cake would just be sugary bread.
Butter is also a key ingredient when it comes to baking. Without butter, your baked good would be a crumbly mess. Butter is a fat which binds to nonpolar molecules and messes with the gluten process to make your baked good super moist.
Artificial vanilla extract is basically the chemical compound vanillin, which is C8H8O3, and is dissolved in ethanol, which is C2H6O. Ethanol is alcohol, and vanillin is extracted from the seed pods of vanilla orchids, which give off a sweet fragrance and a strong flavor. The vanilla gives flavor to the extracts and makes baked goods taste as great as they are.
The starches within the flour primarily have three roles. First of all, the enzymes within the starches help break down the sugars, which aid the yeast in rising of the bread or the batter. The starches also help absorb moisture when baking, and it also helps keep the baked good in place once it's removed from the oven.
So we've covered all the other ingredients except for what's probably the most important of them all, baking powder. Now, when we're baking, we could also use baking soda, but because we're making a cake, we're going to want to use baking powder.
Why?
Here's the equation for baking powder, and here's the equation for baking soda. Now, when we look at these two equations, you can see some pretty good similarities and differences.
Both of these equations require sodium bicarbonate to produce water and carbon dioxide. However, with a quick look, you can see that while in baking soda you need 2 sodium bicarbonate, you only need 1 in baking powder, along with the added hydrogen atom, but that's given to you from the acid of the baking powder. In other words, it takes a smaller amount of baking powder to produce the same amount of CO2 as baking soda.
So really, it's more efficient to use baking powder. You'll get more bubbles for less, which will give your cake that nice fluffy texture it needs. Oh, and one more thing. The sodium carbonate produced in baking soda breaks down your stomach with the hydrochloric acid to produce the rest of the CO2, and that gas needs to go somewhere. First, we preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Next, we grease and flour the pan.
Then you mix all the ingredients. pan in the oven.
Whoa, that was a lot of hard work. Thanks for your help, guys.
No problem, Jared Fry, the science guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.